Now, the Danish team doctor has revealed that they thought that footballer Christian Eriksen was gone after he collapsed during a Euro 2020 game at the weekend.
But thanks to his quick-thinking teammates and medics, Eriksen is now recovering in hospital.
Yeah, thankfully. And we are joined now by a man with a similar story who hopes this will help raise awareness of the importance of CPR and defibrillators to save lives. Seaghan Kearney joins us now. Seaghan, listen, it was shocking scenes at the weekend. I was watching at the time. Really scary stuff. And you have had a similar incident happen to you, and thankfully you're here to tell the story. Can you tell us about your incident and even, how were you feeling on the lead up to that day?
Yeah, so, well, it was nearly almost 11 years ago now, but I was playing five-a-side with some friends up in a local GAA club, St Oliver Plunkett's, and basically during the game, very similar to what happened the weekend, I just collapsed, dropped on the floor.
And had you been feeling unwell? Did you feel that there was maybe something wrong with you even heading to five-a-side that day?
Well, I actually don't remember the day or the subsequent few days, because when the heart stopped, and it was stopped for 5 minutes, there was a lack of oxygen to the brain, so it wiped my short-term memory. But anyone I spoke to who I dealt with that day said, look, it was a perfectly normal Monday and everything, there was nothing amiss or nothing different, or you weren't complaining.
So then you dropped down. It's not because of a tackle, similar to the scenes that we saw on Saturday evening at the football match. What happens next? Your teammates run over to you? Do they think you're messing? What happens then?
Yeah, so they thought I was... Well, the floor up in the gym at the time was like an ice skating rink, so they thought I slipped, and one of them actually, won't name him, but he tried to hit me in the back of the head with the ball, but lucky enough for me...
You never expect to see this, and you just had fallen to the floor, but when did they realise that something was serious?
Yeah, so they said there was the colour of my face. When they went over, obviously I wasn't getting back up, and they said they seen it, there was a horrible colour in my face, so straight away one of the guys put me in the recovery position. Unfortunately, there was a fireman upstairs who was, and it was his turn to volunteer at the bar, like once a month he's there.
Wow.
So they grabbed him and he came down. He knew exactly what to do then.
So he was a fireman. He knew CPR. He had that training.
Yeah, he's obviously his paramedic training kicked into play, and the guys, in fairness to all my friends, they reacted really well. They knew exactly where the defibrillator was, and they were able to get hold of the defibrillator. He administered the CPR and then administered the shock from the defibrillator. But
luck was really shining down on you in a way, because the defibrillator only had one charge, and that was the charge that brought you back.
Yeah, and look, it was nobody's fault, because these things, there wasn't a huge amount of awareness around them. Cormac McAnallen's family in 2003 had promoted the use of defibrillators. The club bought one, and it was never needed, so it was sitting up on a wall. But similar to a phone or a car battery, even though it's not being used, it'll run down. And once they administered the shock, they said the defibrillator basically went flat, so there was enough battery in it just for one more shock.
I mean, it is incredible. I remember that story by Cormac McAnallen, and of course John McCall, a young guy who played rugby for Ireland under 21s, died on the pitch as well. And I was reading the statistic, approximately 100 young people and children die in Ireland every year because of SADS. I mean, I never believed it was that many. Yeah,
it's on average, it's 2 a week. And look...
young people and children, 2 die a week.
Yeah. So it's just a defect with the heart that we're probably not aware of. It can be a variety of defects that can cause it, but your heart is your engine, so once that stops,
How did you get your head around the fact that you have been effectively dead for 5 minutes? What was that recovery like? Obviously there's the physical recovery, but psychologically getting your head around that?
Because the memory was wiped, I didn't have to deal with kind of how it happened. And
the trauma of the scenes, or how it played out?
Yeah.
Okay.
So a couple of days, I came around, and then it was like waking up from a dream or something, and they told me what happened. So it was probably worse for the people around me than it was for myself.
The doctor says, so no more five-a-side. obviously. How has the rest of your life been affected by this?
No more five-a-side, no more football, but as my friend said, look, your career was over before that happened. But I view it as a positive event, because when one door shuts, another one opened. Through the club, I started doing stats and analysis, and then, long story short, I became involved with Dublin teams, and I've been involved with Dublin teams since. And as a kid, it was a dream of mine to be involved in All-Ireland winning teams, and I've been fortunate enough to meet a lot of great people and be in winning dressing rooms, so.
And then in terms of the device that you've been fitted with, tell us exactly what you have now that keeps you alive should the worst ever happen again to you.
So they fitted with me with it's called an SICD, and it basically sits on the rib cage inside the skin. And if it happened again, it's constantly monitoring the heart. It will kick into action.
It's a mini defibrillator.
Yeah, a mini Terry O'Brien, as I call it, is the guy who said.
Can I ask you though, for people watching, and when you say this happens twice a week, for people watching, their parents, for their children, and even for elderly people out playing five-a-side as well, is CPR most important? Learning how to use a defibrillator. What do you think is most important for people watching this morning and haven't seen what happened to Christian Eriksen at the weekend? So
there's an organisation called CFR.ie if anybody wants information on this stuff or wants to get involved. And your best chance is with a community responder, because every second counts. To try and get the heart going again. And like I was saying, my short-term memory was wiped. There was the potential for brain damage there if it had went on much longer.
But if there's no community responder close by, should everybody be taught CPR to a good level?
Absolutely. And we had a simple message. It was an ACT campaign, so a very simple acronym. A, you have your defibrillator accessible. C, that it's charged. Check the batteries and the pads regularly. And T, you have people trained to use it.
Wow.
Gosh, you say every minute counts, every second counts.
Every second counts, yeah.
Absolutely. Shane, listen, thank you so much for coming in and telling your story. I'm sure a lot of people watching on who haven't seen what happened at the weekend will really take that on board. Thank you.
Thanks
no problem. You're welcome.